Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they melt a planet with twin suns. My name is Brody, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts Amanda and Christian as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from the Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 21, The Pirate. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. With that, we're going to Celebration next week.
Boom.
It's finally here.
It's crazy.
Next week.
Wow.
It's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
It's happening. So
We've been looking forward to
big
this for
fight.
so long.
I'm looking
About
forward to
it.
this.
All next. It's gonna be crazy.
Are you stressed,
This time
Christian?
next
Are you relieved? I know you were stressed for a
isn't?
while there.
Yeah. Who isn't?
Who isn't stressed? Well, I wasn't, but you're kind of making me stressed.
I'm
now.
not
Should I be
stressed
stressed? What do you know
because-
that I don't know?
I'm not stressed because I'm bringing only a carry-on and a personal item. I feel like I'd be a lot more stressed if I was checking luggage because that just adds a whole new.
Yeah. Definitely not checking.
I'm bringing a carry-on, kind of the same thing. I'm bringing a carry-on and a personal item still, but also a little human
Yeah.
who does not have many years.
Couple of
age.
those.
Yeah, a couple of those. But they'll be fine. Just they're practically adults, right? Don't need any sort of special care, love, or attention.
Sure.
I'm glad I'm not on your flight.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't understand why it's not a possibility to like upsell the hell out of it a childless flight. Like no one under the age of 12 is allowed on a plane. Like I would spend extra money for that experience for sure. No offense.
What about,
I mean,
what
no
about
offense,
noise cancel?
but-
I mean, I'm not offended. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
children,
yeah.
so which I love very much, but I also understand if they're not yours, how. Well, what's the difference between that and noise canceling headphones? Maybe unless you're like sitting next to one that's like, so like.
Well, because kids be like kicking the back of your seat and like looking around and like dropping stuff and like it's
And
not
puking on
just
you.
it's not just the loudness.
When I was one, this guy was sitting next to me on an airplane. He went to go use the restroom, and when he came back, he put his headphones on, only to realize they were soaking wet. I just put one side of his headphones in my mouth for I guess like 30 seconds, so my mom realized and
Gross.
put him back down. He just went, and he just looked at me, and I just looked at him.
Yeah.
You remember this? You were
No, not at all.
1 year old.
But I mean, I was making power moves early, I guess. I don't know.
Dang. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But speaking of celebration,
Yeah.
we have a celebration panelist joining
Yeah,
us
we
tonight.
do.
This person is she's probably the most educated Star Wars fan we know when it comes to Star Wars content. So much so that she's going to be educating others
Yeah.
Doing
at
the
her
teaching.
panel at Star Wars Celebration. Should we just bring her in?
Yeah, let's
I
do
am
it.
so
Roll
excited.
out the red carpet.
All right. Our special guest is Alanis, not a Kyber.
Hello. What an
Welcome.
entrance. Wow.
Right. Well, we do some things well. Not all things, but a couple of things.
So glad to have you back.
I'm so glad to be back. I also can't wait for celebration.
I'll bet you're gonna have to explain, or give a teaser how much you want to the viewers about your panel. This is your first time doing the panel at a celebration.
Yeah, so this is actually my first time like talking about the class to like a large group of people. Obviously, like the TikTok has gained a little bit of traction, but this is the first like formal time. But the whole panel is about my Star Wars elective that I wrote the curriculum for and currently teach. So it's all about bringing in a new generation of fans, and I'm super stoked on it.
Nice.
Wow. Well, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to know a panelist that's up there. And
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I feel like that like obnoxious like family when they announce her and she just goes on stage and just
all
like,
like,
Everyone's
"Yeah,
like,
you did it!
"Yeah!"
You did it!
Air horn.
I know her.
I know her. I
It
gave
was
her a chicken sandwich
so-
once.
It was so surreal the very first time that like I saw the panel on the celebration page. My friend Brooke, funny enough, actually tweeted it, and I was scrolling through Twitter and saw the screenshot, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like that's me."
That's so surreal.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm very, very excited to see how it all unfolds.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I
Yeah.
mean, yourself, the Podwins gang, all these other folks that we've met throughout the course of, our own show, doing this journey for about a year and a
Yeah.
half now. And just to be able to meet all of you and hang out in person and do karaoke amongst other fun things. I'm just so excited. But before we dive too much down that road, because we all know we could spend the entire episode just talking about how stoked we are for what's happening a week from now. We have a pretty exciting episode of Mando.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Amanda, what happened in this episode of The Mandalorian, Jack Sparrow, whatever it was called? Dive into it for us.
So season 3, chapter 21 is called The Pirate. Pirate King Gorian Shard invades Navarro in revenge of the murder of his henchman in the season's premiere. Grief Karga tries to bluff his way out of saying Navarro has the New Republic on his side, but Gorian Shard sees through it and attacks, destroying the city in a Game of Thrones level devastation. Grief Karga reaches out to Captain Carson Teva to recruit help from the New Republic. As Teva goes through the proper channels and requests resources to Navarro, Elia Kane eavesdrops on the conversation as Teva begins to put together that there's something more happening in Navarro than meets the eye. With no help from the New Republic, Teva heads to the Mandalorian hideout to personally request Din help his friend.
Nice. That was a good summary.
That
Thank
was
you.
a very
Yeah.
Jogged some memories too of like, oh yeah, it was
There was a lot happening
was
in
a
this
lot.
episode. And also, I got to admit, I watched it yesterday, which is a big TV show watching day in our household. So we had Mandalorian, we had Bad Batch, which had 2 episodes that was really good, but we're not here to talk about today, so no spoilers. And then we also had a new episode of Ted Lasso and a new episode of Survivor. So my brain needed to be fully rejogged on what happened in
I
this
gotta say,
episode.
I don't think they're here yet, but they will be. Hyperspace Heroes submitted a hot take that, honestly, kind of bummed. I hadn't seen the last episode of Bad Batch yet.
And
In
you
fact,
had
I
been
haven't seen
watching it.
I had been watching it.
And you hadn't been watching it.
Yeah,
no.
and
And
we-
you knew.
And
Well, he told,
Oh.
I read this hot take spoiler
it
whatnot.
was about.
Thought
Wait, what?
that you
What
had
happened?
already seen because you talked. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I hear no
rough.
I know,
That's
like,
rough.
I'm like, what a way to get spoiled via your hot take submissions. I'm like, oh, I guess we are growing as a show, or like.
But
People
shout
are
outs
beating
also
you
to
to it.
Hyperspace Heroes because it was
Yeah.
their tweet that Thursday morning that was like, if you have Twitter open right now and don't want Mandalorian spoiled, shut it and put it away. And I
Shut
was
it
like, dang
down.
it. Okay, fine. And
They
I
saved you. They
I
got you.
didn't get anything spoiled.
They had your
Because
back.
one thing that I left out of my summary is that we got Zeb from Rebels.
Freaking
Best
Zeb.
part. Best part.
I jumped
That
out of my
sucks.
seat. Well, first of all, I had to look up to see how long this episode was. So I saw that it was called The Pirate, and immediately I was like, The Pirate? Hondo Ohnaka? And then I was like, oh my God, what if Hondo Ohnaka comes out? And what if Christopher Lloyd is Hondo Ohnaka? Like, I was like, oh my God, I cracked the code. And I was kind of like, I just spoiled it for myself. That's the big surprise. But it wasn't. It wasn't yet.
You kind of spoiled it for yourself, like you saw Zeb.
No, I didn't, but
the-
I thought that I had
Yeah.
guessed so well, but I didn't.
Dude, let's talk about that. How about that? Like, just see,
So cool.
it looked good.
It looked
looked
so
great.
Yes.
good.
Effects, animation, that was good.
I like that they gave him a new outfit. I know there's a lot of hot takes around that right now,
Really,
but yeah, a lot at hate it.
Dude,
And-
people change their outfits sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
well,
you gotta wash
clothes.
the clothes.
I was
those
looking at his like original character design and I was like, wow, that would look so goofy in live action.
Yeah.
I did think to myself, like watching Rebels for the first time, I never thought I would see Zeb live action, and I was fine
Sure.
with it because I'm like, that's a lot for me to ask as a fan. you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Jake Strange said it best. Carabast.
Yes.
Ah,
And I knew it was him from his voice. Like as soon as he spoke, and it wasn't until like the end credits rolled where Jake was like, okay, I guess that is Zeb. And I was like, damn
Yeah.
right it is.
that's so funny that he didn't think it was.
Because I think he just thought he was another Lasat.
I thought it was too good to be true. I was like,
He was
I
like
was like,
calling you
is
out.
it-
It's like you saying they all look the
I was like,
same?
is
What
it
are you
just
saying?
another one?
What are you
Like,
saying?
am I getting too excited here?
Wow, look at all of us. What if we were all just like completely prejudiced against Lasats? We didn't even know it.
I obviously confirms that he's going to be in Ahsoka. And my prediction, well, we can maybe I'm jumping in a little too far, but I think we're for sure going to get Sabine, if not Ahsoka, in the next episode.
I think we're getting Agent Callus, and I will die on that hill. I have been dying on this hill for 3 years.
I know. I saw Zeb and I was like, where's his husband?
I cannot tell you the amount of people that reached out to me after that episode to be like, are you okay?
Are you?
I won't lie. I did spend a good 15 minutes going frame by frame in that scene to see if anyone in the background resembled Callus.
Yeah.
Nothing was there. Nothing was there. But I truly think, not to get too far into predictions, that Callus is helping Sabine at the moment.
Ooh.
And that's why Zeb was there.
Ooh.
Here we go. Here we go.
I just really want Sabine to pop in. Definitely.
Same.
Well, okay.
It's gotta happen.
So the end of this episode, the armorer asks Bo-Katan to come into her former forge, and she tells Bo-Katan to take her helmet off and says that basically Bo-Katan is the new chosen one and there are 2 ways to live, and sends her to go find more of the Mandalorian. Well, who's the other famous Mandalorian we know? Sabine.
Who
It's
she
gotta
knows.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who she knows. And she knows Boba. So that's got to come in at some point. It's coming in. They are. Did you
At some
hear?
point,
Did you
sure.
hear about all the stuff they're working on? They're like apparently working on more props for his ship right now. They're gonna set up. It's either a Book of Boba Fett season 2 or something else going on. I'm telling you, Boba's making an appearance this season. I'm holding out hope. And if they don't, then I'm over this show and Star Wars is not a part of my life. And
You know who's
over
no
it.
longer making appearances though? King Pirate Gorian Shard. He's
Yeah,
dead.
he's dead.
Yeah.
I really like that pirate, just
Really?
the character of that pirate. And I think it was fitting for him to die this way. It was a nice, like this episode, I think it balanced or it captured that tone, the iconic tone of The Mandalorian, where it's
Mhm.
lighthearted, almost a side quest, fun, like pirates are coming, let's defeat the space pirates. And then they nail you with some more like story plot. The armorer dropping bombs on Bo-Katan and freaking Zeb and like Captain Carson Teva doing some real investigative work,
Mhm.
really setting up for some awesome stuff in the future. So it wasn't even just a fun side quest episode. There was a lot of purpose behind it too.
Yeah.
And it ties in like this whole conflict, you know, the Mandalorians getting back to Navarro, you know, and it was a great homecoming trip for them.
Well, something I wanted to ask, because I'm not sure I fully understand this, but I'm going to do my best to piece together my understanding. And I really am curious to see what you think about this. So at the end of the episode, we have Bo-Katan, who's been told by the armor, you can take your helmet off. Now, everything this season has been very like deeply rooted in religion and faith, and there's a spirituality aspect to it. And what I find interesting is when she leaves the cave, they say she doesn't cover her face. To me, it seemed really symbolic of like there's a lot of folks who they'll interpret like the New Testament where they say, well, Jewish people, they don't eat pork and they don't do this and they don't do that. But when you go out, you can represent yourself differently. If you eat with them, you can do these things, or you can't, because you're kind of walking like that. You're not going to ask the Gentiles to do this one thing. If we're going to talk with them and, you know, eat with them and whatever, just don't cause your brother to stumble and you're good. So it kind of had that sort of vibe for me where it's like, well, she's not really one of us. She walks both worlds. We're not going to ask her to walk our way, which is interesting because it seemed like she's kind of changing the rules here. But it seems like it's kind of pulling from that New Testament way of thinking to say, well, all these other people don't wear their helmets. And if we really want to regain Mandalore, we need to meet people where they are now. So it seems like it's pulling from that. I'd love to know what you are all thinking. And also, I'm curious, does the armor have just ulterior motives here? Is there something else going on? Because again, she did tell Bo-Katan earlier on, well, you never took off your helmet. I don't know. I guess you can stay. Now she's like, well, you saw the mythosaur, so do what you want. Just a very different tone than the previous episode.
I think she was testing Bo this whole time. I think
Mm.
that's what this whole thing was. Because her tone kind of changed the second that Bo-Katan mentioned the mythosaur. And that's when I was like, okay, interesting. And it felt like the armor was almost the whole time challenging her to see, well, can she live in and respect how we are living? And I think once she proved that, not only by saving the foundling, not only by living by their rules, but by doing it successfully and by giving, the Mandalorians some good PR, that's when she was like, all right, she respects us. She's not going to try to strip us of what we have. So she can lead us in whichever way she sees fit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with more of that testing period. She's feeling out what's going on. Like we mentioned before, she wasn't revealing her cards about confirming. She was kind of first playing it off like, oh, you saw a vision or whatever of the mythosaur, and Bo-Katan wasn't coming out forthright with that information as well. But I think Bo demonstrated a lot of like loyalty and worth to the overall Church of Mandalore, if you want to call it. So I think the armor was more genuine than misleading, but I mean, that's how I saw it. What do you think, Amanda?
I agree. I think you said that all really perfectly. I don't think the armor has any ulterior motives. I think, I think watching Bo-Katan, she could have gone out and been like telling everyone, like, I just saw a mythosaur. Like, you won't believe it. Like, we should all go back to Mandalore right now, and try to rule her own way or use that to leverage influence over people. And really, the only person she ended up telling was the armor. And I think the armor saw that as like really truly a leadership style. But one thing I didn't like, or that made me like pause for a moment, was when she comes out to all of the Mandalorians by her ship, and when Paz like looks over at Din to get like approval that she can lead, I was like, this is weird, because Paz just agreed and like stood up for Din in that conversation that they had to take Navarro. And he's clearly has Din's back, but is he like, what's this woman doing leading Mandalore?
I see, and maybe like my perspective from that is, I think you might be asking too much of Paz Vizsla, because we're already seeing him say, okay, now we're going to start sacrificing or giving up our lives for non-Mandalorians, which I think is a leap for Paz, but like it's a good one for him. I think asking him to then start dismantling his whole religion and belief and just accepting someone doesn't have their helmet, like man or woman, I think just making him accept that right away, I think that's just too much to ask for someone who's either grown up or been like infused with this beliefs.
Yeah.
I didn't see it more so as that, but
That's a
maybe
good
that's
observation.
because I'm just a white cisgendered male,
I love the awareness.
but I will say maybe part of why the armor got to this point, it was after Paz Vizsla's speech. She is seeing her tribe is ready for something like that. It wasn't like her executively making that decision. It was like, I think that was a big turning point speech for her. I loved that speech of his. Right when he was going off, I was like, oh, I bet you he's gonna like turn this into something.
Jake and I were like, watch, he's gonna be such a dick about it. Like we hate Paz, and we hate Paz. And then all of a sudden he was like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna do it. I was like, oh, Paz,
why should we do it? Because we're Mandalorians.
Hell yeah.
I was like, wow, all right. We weren't expecting that direction, but we'll take it. Thanks. Kind of came out a little aggressive in the beginning there. Weren't expecting you to take that turn, but here we are.
I almost wonder if narratively they're trying to set up like a half of them want Din, half of them want Bo situation. So when I saw that little like head nod thing, that was kind of like my first thought, is as almost like they think Din is like ruling from the shadows in a not at all kind of way.
Who do you want?
I'm in my Bo-Katan era.
Same.
Because here's my thing. I don't see Din as a leader. I don't. I
Yeah.
think he is a good man. I think he is a good father. I don't see Din as being able to command a large group of people. He has
Yep,
lived
I agree.
on the outskirts for too long to fill, to fill those shoes. And I think Bo-Katan can, after, everything she's done wrong.
Yeah.
Mm,
Christian,
yeah.
what do you think?
I don't have a problem with either. I think it makes a lot more sense, especially on paper for Bo.
Yeah.
I think it would mean more, especially to her
She's
too.
just slaying too,
And
like with
she's-
her
yeah.
haircut. Like it always looks good. Oh my gosh, her like little half smile smirk at the end, like just yeah, she slays every time.
I
Yeah.
agree with all of you. Here's my only thing I'm going to say to that. As of right now, she is by and large the clear-cut favorite choice for the person who should lead Mandalore. But what's really interesting is what I think we've seen with like a lot of some of the great leaders in human history are folks who didn't necessarily go out of their way for wanting power and wanting to be the leader, but the situation just kept getting thrust on themselves and they just stepped up to the call in that moment. So as of right now, yes, she's walked the walk, talked the talk. She's been in that position before. Yes, she clearly appears to be the better leader. I wouldn't be surprised though if they go the route of Din Djarin because it's just duty
I wouldn't be
calls.
surprised either. I'm just
But I mean, look at the dynamic duo that they are. Like this whole episode, we
They
had
both need to parent him. The
Yeah.
little Grogu.
they
marriage, dark saber unite.
Din in the N1, pulls a bunch of fighters off of him, and that leaves Bo-Katan to do her maneuver. Like they were grossly
team.
outnumbered, and they still like supported each other, and like they wouldn't have been able to be successful if it wasn't for both of them.
Yeah, I don't see them as a relationship, and I really truly hope that they don't go that way.
Yeah.
But I do think they are hopefully leading towards some type of like ruling union. Because I do think if they find a way to reinstate Mandalore in that direction, I don't think they're going to do it in a, traditionally Mandalorian sense. I think they are going to say like, oh, we're ushering a new era in. We have one guy with a mask and, woman without one. Woo.
Yeah, have different representatives like coming
Yes.
to like, the table.
Yeah.
This child
Which
shall lead us.
makes so much sense because that's how Mandalore fell apart. Like even Satine had her own, which by the way, say Satine's name. Why is that so hard to do? But Satine had her very own distinct style of ruling Mandalore as well that kind of led to its downfall. So it's like, why, like, how can we combine all of them together?
The other thing I want to talk about with like looking at, we always think the Outer Rim is what's, it messed with. All these planets are messed with from pirates and the separatists and all these things are going on the outside that the New Republic, they don't have the ability to really help with. And then this season, we've seen a lot of their limitations early on. But on top of that now, Gorian Shard indicates that they can't even protect the mid-rim from pirates. And that's actually really alarming. You think about that. I mean, they're doing a horrible job. So all of this, Carson Teva comes out and says, hey, look, we got to do something here. And in the best era of the High Republic, you had Jedi helping in the cases where maybe the Republic couldn't step in. And there was always like, it says we are all one Republic, I think was the motto for the High Republic, something like that for the High Republic. Whereas here it's like, what's her name? The lady that was an Imperial.
Kane?
Yeah, she's like, well, are they registered? And doesn't look like it. And it's
a member.
Yeah, and it's just this
club
all
membership
bureaucratic red tape system that really they don't care. And you see from this, you're like, wow, all of this stuff put on into the sequels would have made those movies so much better. Out the gate. I'm glad we're getting some of these stories now.
I will say though, and not to cut slack or make an excuse, but this adds to like just the great complexity of government spanning and trying to, reign in peace and prosperity. But let's say you, as an independent system, you're saying, I'm not going to participate in your government and I'm not going to fund or whatever. So leave me alone. oh, but I need your help. Like,
Yeah.
you can't fault the New Republic as well, just for like, well, we can't just delegate all of our resources and bleed dry for people who aren't going to pay back into our
Sure.
system.
Yeah.
So like, there's
I-
a two-sided coin to that, but that doesn't mean that they like should have, take more investigative steps, because if the
That's-
Empire
yeah.
is really
Yeah.
a threat there, yeah, you should eliminate that threat and maybe,
And there
defend
was
Navarro against that.
numerous amounts of evidence like that was cited of imperial occupations within the last 5 years in that space. And as you said, there's just negligence. They're just turning a blind eye to things. And as a result, I mean, we're seeing at the end here, Moff Gideon escaped, and they're just covering it up instead of really, as it appears right now, doing anything about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's way easier to cover it up. Hyperspace Heroes said Carson Teva needs his own spin-off series.
Oh yeah.
And this
they're
isn't my
here
own
now.
original idea. But I saw someone on Twitter mention that, like, I think Carson Teva is filling in the role of Cara Dune in her, like, Rangers of the New Republic. He's kind of doing that role.
Yeah.
That I bet
Yeah.
she was probably designed to try to fill. But honestly, yeah, let's do Rangers of the New Republic with Carson.
I also
Or
I
Agent Callus. That was always
Or
mine.
Agent
That was
Callus.
always mine.
I don't really like Carson Teva's like the guy who's playing him as an actor. I don't know what it is about the
Wow.
delivery. It's the lines are coming in like they're just not. I don't know. It's overly dramatic to me, very hallmarky. Like there's something deep out
This
in
is
space
Star
out there.
Wars.
It's bad. If we don't do something now, it's gonna be too late. I'm like, yeah.
Stakes are high.
Stakes are high, man.
Stakes are high.
I will say,
We gotta go get them.
hard left or right turn, the music.
So good.
But if I could give it a 6 out of 5, like I would. 5 out of 5. From the beginning, we get the little sea shanty like little thing, and then we get a
some
whole
psychedelic
song.
rock on that
Yes.
It
bass.
reminded
Did you,
me
oh,
of-
did you
yeah.
see that on the captions? On
Yes.
the auto
Yes, I
captions, just psychedelic rock.
I
Like,
love
this
that.
is so good.
That's why I upped that music score for this one.
Yeah, that I
Yeah.
gave a a perfect 5 out of 5.
It reminded me of the music in Maz Kanata's castle at Force Awakens.
There's a little
Yes.
flavor of that. Little flavor.
Jake said LG popped off this
LG.
episode. Yeah, he
LG.
did.
Well, so correct me if I'm wrong. LG, obviously with his inspiration, but is it Joseph Shirley spearheading the soundtrack for this season though?
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't think
know.
LG is primarily
And that's Ludwig Göransson for all our new listeners.
Yeah.
We call
We
him
call him
Ludwig.
LG.
old
I don't know,
LG.
but yeah, like
Let's look it up.
there's still it was a good blend of
Yeah,
just-
Podwins just said, so it wasn't LG. Dang.
I said it first.
Yeah, comments are slightly delayed on StreamYard,
Yeah.
so maybe.
I want to jump back to this comment from Darthman86. He said, real question, was Moff Gideon taken by a rival Mandalorian tribe or one who worked with him? Is this teasing like Death Watch?
It is a real question. Was it the who's the other, not Gar Saxon, but
Fen Rao?
Fen Rao.
well, that or the other, who am I thinking of?
Oh.
But didn't
I don't
Thrawn also have access to Beskar?
Who knows who all has
So,
access to Beskar
I
at this point?
thought that originally. I won't lie. My very first thought when I saw that like decrepit ship was, oh my goodness, this is Thrawn. This is it. They're gonna name drop. But the more that I think about it, I really, really think what wound up happening was Sabine got Moff Gideon because Moff Gideon knows where Thrawn is. And if we know where Thrawn is, we know where Ezra is. Cue Ahsoka.
Oh.
There we
But you think
go.
Sabine would have killed those innocent galactic, I guess, transport guys just moving prisoners from A to B?
Could have been a bad accident.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a pretty bad one.
honestly, it depends on what type of situation we see Sabine in, because we saw Sabine at, I guess, her quote unquote worst when she was training with the Darksaber. So we know that she has that kind of angry, like kind of violence within her. And
Mhm.
obviously being around Kanan and Ezra and like her family helped that. But I can only imagine how she has grown throughout the years, because for what we know, she's alone because she wasn't with Ahsoka. We don't know how the relationship with her own family, the Wrens,
Mhm.
has progressed or died off. We don't know. So I think it could be possible that she just is kind of like a,
Like
you
an
know,
Ahsoka, like a
yeah.
I just can't see it. Like Star Wars is so big into like good guys don't shoot first. Even what was it? Grief Karga this episode was said I didn't shoot first.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard for me to believe. As much I like that.
Wait.
I wouldn't mind that.
You don't
at all.
believe Han shot first?
Well, I mean he did. That's actually what happened first.
Yeah.
So like, and then McClunky happened. So anyway, I don't know. Look, I think that would be really cool. I just can't. And I know she'll make her appearance. I just don't think that's it. I almost wonder if it's like a rival tribe, like you said, or like Mandalorians or something.
If I'm thinking
Thrawn.
realistically and not like, my fun little, headcanons, I feel like it's going to be like an offshoot Mandalorian, something. I would hope, it's not, but I would guess that they need to show that there are like, more Mandalorians than just the 14 of them that are hanging out with the armor.
Do you
Yeah.
think Moff Gideon would even like report or respect Thrawn? I get this vibe that he's all in for himself, and he's more like just this like militaristic guerrilla leader, or having that kind of tribe.
I think he's afraid of Thrawn, and I know that sounds crazy. Because the vibe that I get from Moff Gideon is, yes, very much in for himself, but he respects those who obviously have something for him or something to gain.
Yeah, I think
and
he's too smart to like try to backstab Thrawn
Yeah.
and do anything.
exactly.
Thrawn.
Yeah.
He knows what kind of enemy he's dealing with.
And I just feel like
Yes.
Thrawn, I don't know what it is, man, but something about him, like, I just feel like he's the dude that knows what's going on Exegol. He knows how to rally up thousands behind his cause. He's probably got more plots than old Palpy. So when it comes to him versus Moff Gideon, who's, got maybe a ship and, a few hundred, maybe a lower thousand, something like that. It's not comparable. So I think you're right. Like being afraid, wanting to do his own thing, but I don't get the sense that Moff Gideon, like he definitely feels like just a piece on the chessboard, not the player moving things forward.
Darthman86 says Moff is higher in rank than Thrawn, so keep that in mind.
Oh, is he? All right.
Moff
ISP
versus Grand
offers
Admiral.
us
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Makes
the
sense.
I wanted to mention before I forgot, Grief Karga and his whole thing with. I remember you talked about like he was going to get captured or kidnapped or
Yeah.
something. I think this was kind of this episode or the timing of what you were talking about. I liked how he mentioned, or like he referred to himself, magistrate or whatever.
Yeah.
And the droid's like, "Hi, magistrate."
Yeah.
And it was a little sense of humility that he
Yeah.
had for himself, but it was definitely reminding. Again, I think this season is the most like biblically overt or obvious. It's not as subtle as like the first and second season, but with Grief Karga kind of like leading this exodus, like Moses, and they even got him in red, his typical red or whatever. But it was just more so, even in those moments, it just, in that moment watching the episode, I was like, man, I just really enjoy season 3 pound for pound. It's just been a ride.
Which is interesting because the numbers go to Rotten Tomatoes. I was stunned to see how many fans are not enjoying this season overall. And it's actually performed the lowest from ratings, viewership, reviews in comparison to the first two
That does
seasons.
surprise me. I really don't know.
It doesn't surprise me because the first couple seasons were much more easy for entry-level Star Wars fans to jump into.
Yes.
That's the main difference. And I get why some people are upset about the pacing and enlargement of the story. Like, really, Bo-Katan is almost like our main protagonist now.
Yeah.
And for people who don't have experience with the story of the Mandalorians told over, Clone Wars and Rebels and all the other media, this is a lot harder to like jump into.
Even that's a good point. But even just on like all of the scenery that we're seeing on an entertainment level, I feel like this is more entertaining and
Yeah.
like easy, almost, I don't want to say easy popcorn flick to, because the first 2 seasons are very well established and written, and I think slower, more of a space western.
Mhm.
Whereas here we're getting a little taste of Andor. We're getting a lot of like just action and
Yeah.
bouncing around to scenes, and not like a space western
Jurassic
and
Park.
like space pirates. I think we've taken a tone shift for season 3, but I think this episode in particular was a great balance of what the Mandalorian's been so far.
Yeah. And with, again, this last episode and other episodes seeming so much more Jurassic Park-ish, Amanda, are you just thrilled that we're not on that planet anymore?
Yes.
Isla Nublar.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever been more riled up as when Amanda hinted that the Jurassic franchise was a failure. I don't think I was
should
like,
have I did misspeak and said
World.
Jurassic Park, but I meant Jurassic World.
I actually jumped out of my seat. I was like, I can't believe that was just said. My heart, everything just broken.
Jake and I had a long discussion about our marriage after that too. It's really important to him.
I like Jake's comment. Sorry if you already showcased it. The first couple seasons were the Grogu show.
Yeah,
they
very
were.
much so. Very much so.
This
Yeah.
season's it's
It's
doing
a
a lot.
Bo-Katan show, and I love it.
It's kind of weird. The Mandalorian never really is that much about Din. He's kind of just there.
But that's the case with like all good TV shows. Like the main character is usually the least likable person.
Which is a bummer because like I've been seeing Pedro Pascal and other things, and I'm like, oh, this guy's like starting. He's awesome. He's starting to get that like a Keanu Reeves just love from everyone.
Yeah.
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 I love to see it though.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. I saw him in an interview like not too long ago. I was like, he's from San Antonio. He loves Whataburger. He roots for the Spurs. Like, this is the guy. He's like the greatest Star Wars actor ever. Ever.
So let's take a look at what we ended up ranking this episode. I gave it the highest score amongst us all, an 87.4. Brody, you gave it an 81.2, and Christian, you gave it an 82.8.
Nice.
We don't get much closer than that historically.
That's pretty intense.
And Amanda beat us out.
I know.
Amazing.
I'm usually a very pragmatic one.
What was like, I guess, one thing that you really just loved about it that made you more positive than
the
Brody
music
and I?
really blew me away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah. And I love how rich the character storytelling is. Even seeing like the small scenes with Kane, like kind of figuring out like how she's going to be a manipulative person working with Moff Gideon, we're still assuming. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this. And of course the Zeb cameo, he looked great. I'm just glad that he looked really good. And that's a very hard race to sort of CGI or puppeteer.
Yeah.
But it's got me excited for Celebration. Hopefully we'll get those first few looks at the Ghost crew back together.
Yeah. You mentioned Zeb, so like the technical aspects part, the only gripe I had was when Gorian Shard is the message, and he was just like a Muppet Sesame Street type thing going. Like it threw me off, and I had to rewind it because I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying because I was like, your mouth is just not matching up, man.
Yeah, I agree. I caught that too.
And I was just like, I don't know. Is that too much for me to ask? Maybe. I don't know. But it threw me off.
If we have to get to that kind of
if I have to critique it now, Brody asked me to critique Star Wars. That's what I look at.
That's what I'm saying. Like if we have to go that, if we have to split those kinds of hairs, that's a good episode.
I have to say though, I am a little bit upset that the Kowakian monkey lizards are not puppets anymore. I
agree.
I love practical effects. I always have. I love Muppets. I love Jim Henson. And I was just kind of like, oh, I miss the scrunkly little lizards, like the little creatures. They don't look bad CGI by any means, but it loses a little bit of magic for me.
I noticed that in the first trailer, and I was like, ooh, I could tell immediately. And I was like, that's disappointing. But hey, they did get some they got some lines this episode.
Yeah.
They were like,
Which
"Look
I
how-"
loved.
Yeah. I do like what Luke is saying, and I would totally buy into that. He says the same thing, but story like hollows aren't always the best.
Holograms, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be it too. You know, the technology of their time,
Yeah.
a long time ago.
The galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that puts us at an 83 point something percent.
83.8.
Yeah. So right now, season 3 of The Mandalorian is sitting at an 81.77%. Fun fact, y'all, if it continues at this pace, it's right now the best season of any Disney Plus Star Wars TV show to date that we've reviewed.
How does that make you feel, Atlantis?
You know what? I'm not mad about it.
Now, we've only reviewed The Book of Boba Fett, The Bad Batch, Kenobi, Mandalorian, Andor, and Tales of the Jedi. So Clone
Ooh,
Wars
you
and
have
Rebels are not.
Andor in there though.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Let us have it.
But
You know,
also,
raw
That
emotion.
season 2 of Andor, is going to be
That could be
There
fire.
were some, like, look, Andor has higher highs than this season for sure so far. Barely. There's one episode of this season we ranked really high. But Andor did have a couple weaker episodes in there.
You know what though? I'm thinking about it as an all-around aspect, and I loved Andor because I just loved all of the lore that was just embedded into literally every scene. But thinking of everything all together, man, this season of Mando, I love it. I think from all aspects, it's killing it. And I see people's gripes with it. I do think the plot is a little weak. I think they're experimenting with like the layering of storylines and weaving. But I think once they figure out like those little, kinks in the system, they're really going to create something insane.
Yeah. And I mean, the big thing for me with Mando was always that the story was weak from the first 2 seasons. And I still stick by that. But this season, what they did on Coruscant and what they're really weaving in here, these Andor themes, I'm like, oh, you've got the building blocks of something really cool right now. Just from a literary piece, like what they could put together as just a holistic narrative for Mando going forward. This could be a really, really concrete story.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's only an 81.8. It's not 100%. It's not perfect, but
we're liking it.
Andor's, it's 80.18. Now, overall, as a show, as a holistic show, Andor still sits at number 1. There is more Mando, but Mando's climbed up the charts in recent weeks. It now sits at number 2 at 78.54, followed by Obi-Wan at 78.04.
And if you want those specific numbers to look at them a little bit closer and do your own research, you can find them at dueloftheranks.com, where you can find all of our rankings and submit your own hot takes.
Nice.
There's a little plug.
All right. So with that, do we have anything left to say before we move into the hot takes segment? Nothing? Nothing?
No.
Let's go.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time. All right, I've got one. I'm going to be very clear here. I'm really glad he's back, but I need to talk about Zeb for a second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, y'all, but I did not think that CGI was very good. In fact, I know I'm glad he was there. I'm glad they put him in, but it to me felt like it's like, what is he, like a Monstar from Space Jam? Like it just felt
the purple skin.
It's not just
Purple.
it's not just his look. It's just like it felt like Michael Jordan standing next to him, like that kind of feel where like, look, it's not that bad, obviously, but still, it's just like it felt kind of out of place. Like you're definitely looking at a tennis ball right now on a stick. Like there's someone there with the prop. Like you just knew like this doesn't feel right.
So, do you think? Honest question: is that because like of what you were seeing from Tiva, like his responding to
That was
him, or
partly it,
interacting?
and also lighting. Like I don't. Maybe I'm getting. I mean, I'm picking hairs here, obviously, because I still liked that he was back, but it very much so felt like a 3D mold that could have used a lot more touching up before being put out there. So
Amanda, let him have it.
Yeah, I can tell you were really scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with that one. So it's going to be a no for me.
But it's a hot take.
No, it's not. It's milquetoast.
Your feathers are ruffled. The comments feathers are ruffled.
Because it's pathetic.
Are you
okay, it's a bad hot take.
insane? I mean, I'll give it to you. I think it's a hot take. I disagree. Just like the one time watching through looked good to me. And I was like, oh, that looks way better. And like they pulled that off and they couldn't mouth the puppet with Gorian Shard.
Yeah.
I was like, why couldn't we do that?
Priorities.
Priorities, right? So I'm gonna thumbs down, but it's a hot take.
What do you think, Alanis?
Definitely thumbs down. But I do understand what you mean of it seeming a little bit jarring, and I think that is because I think season 1 and 2 of Mandalorian really, really played more on practical effects.
Definitely.
Than CGI, and that's why I really love season 1 and 2, because I was like, oh, it feels like old Star Wars, like I love it. And I think this season they're starting to lean more into the CGI, the volume, what they can actually do with the budget. And I think not seeing Zeb as like even like half of like a costume or a mask was a little weird. It's a take for sure. It's a hot take
for sure,
but it's
It's the wrong take.
it's the wrong one. Yeah.
I knew if I come out of this take with my life, I'm feeling okay. So I'll take what I can get. All right, it's a bad take. Here we go.
I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
All right, Amanda, what's your hot take?
My hot take is that the armor was the MVP of the battle.
Oh yeah.
She came in with those hammers, taking me back to Andor season 1, the clock guy. And I was like, I'm shipping them right now across series. But yeah, her presence during that fight was the best sequence. And it was really cool to see her actually be a muscle instead of just kind of in the background supporting and like prepping the Mandalorians to fight.
I'll agree she was most clutch. I think you could argue Paz Vizsla was also pretty clutch with the machine gun, but he had his moments of getting taken down.
He got knocked down by that big gun. I think it's kind of silly because she's got a hammer, and like I don't know how like she took out the
Beskar hammer.
She took out the stormtroopers that first season. Then I'm like, why don't you guys like stand back 5 feet, take a shot? Why are you getting right next to her? She's got these like she's clearly better than you at hand-to-hand combat. Why are you trying to muscle
up on them?
You got one cocky guy like, oh, I got this.
Yeah, I was like, what's wrong with this guy?
Watch my jujitsu,
this
guys.
Season, this guy, I mean, look, I got the guy on the gunner. He was like, he was getting in fact, he was getting too excited shooting people. I was kind of concerning.
I know
how like excitable he was. So I get why he didn't look. Everyone else though, like kind of like that. No one took a peek. Like she was loud how she was taking those folks out. Maybe the gun overpowered it, but to me, I'm just like, doesn't someone like just stand back a little bit and just
watch
her?
The entrance?
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it always seems a little silly.
But that critique is of the stormtroopers
or the pirates in this case.
Yeah, the pirates. Sorry.
Look, I've got no qualms, and even if they were to shoot her, look, all I'm asking is just shoot her. She's got Beskar armor. It doesn't have to kill her. Doesn't even have to hurt her. But stop telling me the enemy 24/7 is just idiots in Star Wars. If you're the bad guy, you're just dumb. And
that's what they're saving.
Well, you're excited for Thrawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got it's like Scar and a bunch of hyenas. If you're at the top, you're something special. If you're at the bottom, you're
a good comparison.
You're a dope. So I don't know. Those scenes always kind of bug me. So was she the MVP? I mean, I guess, but it's like LeBron against a bunch of 6-year-olds. So yeah, I guess it's not a game I'd watch.
A bunch of them.
Just you would definitely watch that.
LeBron against 6-year-olds? The internet would watch that. Like, why is this happening?
I agree with you. I don't know if that's a hot take per se in my opinion. I don't
Feathers
know.
not ruffled.
I don't know if my feathers are ruffled, but the armor was clutch.
So milk toast. All right, milk toast from you, Alanis. Where you leaning?
Same. Like I fully agree. I'm like, yeah, she brought in the Mandalorian spirit stick. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
The mic.
yeah, hard agree.
Dropping the mic.
Oh well, I mean,
I
it'd be
wish we
cool-
would have got some blood.
Oh yeah.
That was
Mm.
That's
that
not
was a
coming
miss.
anytime
Yeah, it's like
soon.
you
That would
can
be cool.
But
sprinkle a little.
we did get the guts from the thing at the
The
front.
crocodile
yeah,
turtle.
beast is different than
Yeah.
a person. And I'm with you. That'd
Oh.
be something. But or maybe like bring in some Thor action where like she can spark them together and it's lightning and she can hit the ground with it.
This
and
guy
do
and his
blow.
Marvel stuff.
Dude, I'm telling you, that was such an awesome scene of Infinity War. Bring me Thrawn.
Yeah, it was.
I
I agree.
That. And then I'd be like, all right, so that's why. Like, 'cause she's overpowered. Right now, I'm just like, who's this person with the hammer?
Mhm.
Just shoot her. That's all I'm saying. All right, sorry, man. That was milk toast.
You fool! Your take is milk toast.
All right, Christian, what's your take?
I'll be honest. I don't have one. I just I can't really think of anything provocative for this one. So
That's fine.
kudos to you guys for trying.
Oh my, for trying. Okay.
I mean, if in my defense, if I have a hot take, Brody doesn't really recognize
Welcome
it.
to
So
Duel.
it's like,
welcome
why
to
even
Duel
bother
Ranks.
trying?
Show it takes hotter than a planet with twin suns.
We
Maybe.
have them.
I come
if
in
we
with
have-
them, and then Brody's like, "Yeah, no, it's not."
Hey, listen. I went back and listened to it. I'm like, actually, that was pretty good. I at least gave it to you over text.
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. So
Alinus, do you have a hot take?
I do. So I feel like I gotta explain it. I am not a huge fan of the developmental progress of Grogu.
Okay.
Because he's supposed to be like a baby, right?
Mhm.
And I get that he's an alien species and all of this, but it is very weird that we see him like very, very infantilized and like, oh, sweet precious baby. But then he is navigating star systems and doing backflips in the air and shooting a gun.
Yep.
So I think that is a huge kind of discrepancy in his character that I really don't like. I think they either need to stick to one or the other. They're either training this kid to be a little killing machine or he's sweet little baby that can sometimes move things with his mind.
Mm.
I think that's a fair critique.
I think that's a hot take for sure. I'm gonna agree. I don't.
It's a
hard.
hard one.
You're drawing a line. You're drawing a line in the sand. I don't want to cross, but you're forcing me to. I've thought it though. I've thought that. I'm like, well, like, really, how old is this kid?
Yeah, and like we want him to be saying words. Like he should be talking, right?
Yeah, he's
like
50 years
but then
old.
it's like it's hard to imagine like season 4 of The Mandalorian with Grogu just like talking in complete sentences and strategizing with Din. Like that doesn't feel appropriate either.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Let me see. How old was Yoda when he died?
900.
Like, oh,
Okay.
really?
So like, if we multiply that by like 10, maybe he was like 90. I don't know. I mean, I'm just making this up as I go. I don't know
Sure.
if that's actually how this goes biologically
gonna-
speaking.
Gonna get us canceled.
But here's the thing. So
Let's
like,
do the
so baby
science math.
Yoda has like 5, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So maybe he's always been this like toddler kid who just seen a lot of stuff and is just quiet because he's got all these trust issues. And maybe he can kind of talk and can do things, but he's like maybe been a little bit underdeveloped because he hasn't really had a real caretaker in forever.
Yeah.
And he was
And-
tested on for a good
Yeah, he was
portion.
tested on. So
Yeah.
now he's like kind of playing this catch-up game now.
Yeah.
And like and that's maybe helps understand, like, yeah, he understands people from the jump, but he's just, again, there's a lot of trauma baked into there and he's unraveling it now. And as he's processing and getting through it, like, he's able to have fun with other kids and do all these cool things. So I don't know. That's what makes sense to me right now. If he's a 5-year-old, that's just a bit underdeveloped. So I don't know. It's hard for me. I feel like I hear you though. They can't. I'll agree with you. Only that they can't go back now. He can't be little baby Yoda again. Like If it's one or the other, like you went this direction,
You're a big kid now, Grogu.
yeah, you're big now. Like you're not.
Use
yeah.
the potty.
Yeah, you use the potty. None of that other stuff. Stop like eating eggs. You have no
Yeah.
excuse now. We know you knew what was going on when you ate those eggs. So no excuses anymore.
It's a tough one to call.
It is.
I think it was sort of the curse of the writers to begin a story around a character like this anyway, knowing that they would have to address it at some point and he can't become like a teenager by the next season, you know?
Mm.
But yeah, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and give you a Roger. I'm going to agree with it.
Christian,
Let's do it. Roger.
It feels right.
it does feel right. Last part of the show is trivia time. So let's do it.
This is the way to trivia time!
Okay, it's trivia time. Amanda, what's the question of the week?
Okay, this is an interesting one. So, what was standard Imperial procedure when going to light speed? Was it A, alerting all ships of intended course? B, routine check of all devices? C, dumping garbage? Or D, a test flight? What was standard Imperial procedure when going to light speed?
What was A and B again?
Alerting all ships of the intended course, routine check of all devices, dumping garbage, or a test flight?
Go ahead, Christian.
Well, I want to say common sense. Let everyone else know where you're going. But I want to say dump the garbage. I'm just going to go with that.
I'm going to go with Christian's gut. Because usually his gut's correct.
Alanis, do you have a
I'm
thought?
going to say A.
A?
Yeah, his gut. That's the way because he's not going with his gut. I want to go with his gut.
Oh, okay.
Someone's going with my gut.
Yep. It's me.
No, because I feel like I've read somewhere about them dumping garbage.
Well, the answer is dumping garbage, which it looks like our listeners have
Everyone
caught on to that.
Sorry, Brody. I misled you.
Intentionally, I feel like.
No. As a pilot, I would let other people know too. I don't normally dump the garbage.
You don't dump your garbage before you.
Nope.
But that's very Imperial. Just like,
Yeah.
all right, get rid of it.
Litter.
We won't have to see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like space trash.
Oh, like anyway.
That's a good question. I like that question.
You know who else is space trash? The villain of this episode.
Who's that?
The pirate guy.
All
Oh,
right.
you know, he went out in a very piratey way.
He
It
looks
was
like
really
the
badass.
trash guy from Sesame Street.
Okay, that is. I was gonna say Groucho, but that's not Groucho.
That is a
Groucho
way to
Marx.
tie it all into trash.
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar
Groucho Marx.
Groucho.
Groucho.
Groucho. Sweet. En español. Groucho.
I did like the whole pirate. Like, I'm gonna turn the ship like a real ship
Pirate?
in the ocean, like a real pirate.
I would have loved to have been in the room when they
Yeah.
were designing that, and they were like, you know, guys, what would be so cool? A pirate ship wheel. And everyone
Right.
was like,
Yeah.
yes.
They're like, yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I heard that ship was like a separatist ship, and like all the gunners were like apparently it's like this makeshift ship where like all those like turrets were from like those, I don't know, whatever those clone trooper vessels were that had like the circular balls in them that
Oh
shine.
yeah.
I don't know. I heard that was the, but who knows?
It had separatist vibes to it with like the avionics and stuff.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I also in Legends, what were the Eclipse ships with like the sweet nose front that it had? It was like the Eclipse class stuff. It's all expanded universe stuff. It's pretty
Heck
cool.
yeah. Speaking of other things that are going to be pretty cool, it's going to be Alanis's panel out in Star Wars
Yes.
Celebrations. So real quick, before we close this episode out, tell the good people where they can check you out. Are you at on TikTok, all the places you put out content, and also what are you going to be doing a celebration? Give our followers a little bit more info on that.
Yes, so you can follow me at Not a Kyber on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow me though at Discovering the Galaxy on TikTok because that is like my teacher TikTok account. But April 9th from 3:30, 4:30 British time. At Celebration, I will be talking about my Star Wars elective, and the whole class, it kind of goes over like the curriculum that I wrote, how I'm using Star Wars to kind of integrate like English skills using things that like kids actually like. And I get to showcase like all of the awesome things that my kids did this year. We made toys, they made cosplays, they made PSAs to Star Wars fans, which are hilarious. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and you get to kind of see a tidbit of what, is possible with Star Wars.
Awesome.
Nice.
It's going to be so
I'm
fun.
so excited.
I'm so stoked. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
We're going to do, we're not obviously going to be live next Thursday night, but sometime next week, we are going to be recording an episode at Celebration that we're going to be putting out. It's not going to be live, but we're going to record it while we're out there, and we're going to review The Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 22. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have British accents, and we're going to just be posers the entire time. That was
Yeah.
Amanda's idea. And yep. So it's
It
just-
was.
Love it.
No, we're not going to do that, but we are going to be there. It's going to be a great time. If you want more Duel of the Ranks in the meantime, Amanda, where do they go? What do they do?
Check us out at dueloftheranks.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And submit your own hot takes to us by just tweeting it out or filling it out on the website. We've got some merch there, and you can always check to see where your favorite piece of content fell amongst the rest of them on our website.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Lannis, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to see you guys in like
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll be
we'll see
great.
you then.
That's nuts. It's happening. Otherwise, thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, and we look forward to catching you next week from London.
Cheerio.
See you then.